We have a major snowstorm underway in portions of New Mexico and Colorado this morning. Let's take a look at the overall satellite picture because we have an impressive upper level low that's sitting across New Mexico, dragging down that colder air, and the snow is just cranking. In fact, they've got blizzard warnings happening in the northeastern portions of New Mexico, but the lift is out ahead of it, and we're going to be seeing a lot more heavy rain. They've already had flooding rains in West Texas this morning, and that's going to push northbound this afternoon into Oklahoma, as well as portions of Kansas. And look at here, folks. I mean, Raphael is not done. It's reemerged back into the Gulf, and yet again, it's a major hurricane, 120-mile-per-hour hurricane sitting right there into the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. If we take a look at the overall radar depiction this morning, the snow is still flying across a good part of New Mexico and areas of eastern Colorado. Denver is going to see a big time snowstorm, and there's the rain out ahead of it. So we could be picking up some flooding rains, some marginally induced hail this afternoon, but that's likely going to be spreading into Oklahoma as well as into Kansas. They've got the flood warnings and watches in place right now. There is the blizzard warnings unfolding across that region. So the snow is going to be definitely cranking. So let's take a look at some of these impressive snowfall totals the National Weather Service is forecasting. So yeah, folks, this is not a misprint. We're talking about a historic 3-day snowstorm for this area. And man, look at some of these snowfall totals. Pretty impressive, folks. I mean, we're talking double-digit snowfall totals. There's 18 inches, 27 inches, upwards to Las Vegas, New Mexico, 44 inches. That's an insane amount of snow. And further north, even in the towards Raton, that back into the Clayton, even the Texas Panhandle, even portions of the Texas Panhandle could pick up a foot of snow in the far extreme portions of the Texas Panhandle and western Oklahoma. So just an insane historic storm, and that just continues all throughout the day into later on tonight. So we're going to delve deeper into the forecast, but first, a word from my sponsor.
Today, I want to talk to you about something just as crucial as tracking storms and staying safe during severe weather: protecting your online privacy. That's where my sponsor, Private Internet Access, comes in. Think of it as a weather shield, but for your data. Imagine logging onto the internet without PIA. It's like trying to weather a storm with no shelter. Every click, every search, even that quick Bing check, it's exposed. Like walking through a thunderstorm without an umbrella. But with PIA, you're covered. Their powerful encryption, like the strongest shelter during a storm, it hides your IP address and keeps your online activity protected. No strangers peeking over your shoulder and no unwanted listeners, just complete privacy 24/7. I know firsthand. On my last cruise, I couldn't get YouTube with basic Wi-Fi. I switched to PIA and bam, full access. It works everywhere, on every device, no problem. PIA has service in all 50 states, over 30 million downloads, and a proven no logs policy backed up in court and by third-party audits. You can connect multiple devices under one plan. And with my link, you can get 83% off, and that's just $2.03 a month, plus 4 extra months free. So why not get peace of mind? With PIA, it's like having clear skies when you need them the most. Whether you're browsing home or traveling, your data stays yours. Sign up today at piavpn.com/pal. It's risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee and 24/7 support. Secure your digital footprint today with Private Internet Access.
So let's take a look at the setup later this morning. We've got the snowstorm continuing to fly across portions of New Mexico and Colorado, adding to those totals. There is Raphael still sitting and spinning there in the Gulf, but there's the heavier rains that will likely spread into Texas this afternoon, into Oklahoma, and a good part of Kansas. We've got some lighter showers this morning across the portions of the Northeast back into Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. But the main event is in the middle part of the country where the snow is flying. And so by 2 o'clock, this is what it would look like. We're likely going to be seeing more heavy rain pushing further into Texas, likely going into North Texas this time, back into Oklahoma, as well as into Kansas again. And there's Raphael. So what's going to happen is it's going to be locked in kind of low steering currents, right? So you can see it's eventually going to be running into a lot of shear, a lot of dry air. So it could meander there for several days, if not head into even next week. But I think eventually this high pressure will be strong enough once this system moves out that it'll finally actually suppress it and actually push it further south. And I think eventually it will just kind of fizzle out by the middle of next week. So, but today we're talking about the heavy rain, and that's going to be spreading over a good part of central and north Texas, much of Oklahoma, again, where they've had much flooding over the last week or two, but they're going to be getting more rain today, and that's going to spread further north into Kansas, and that will spread further east later on tonight, heading into portions of Arkansas into the overnight hours, as well as into areas of Louisiana. So if you break it down over the next, 24 to 48 hours, yeah, all these deeper reds are highlighted across the middle part of the country with that powerful upper level low that will be lifting northeast. So to the south of there, you got the greatest lift. So Raphael obviously stays out in the open waters, doesn't affect anybody, but it'll eventually start hitting some of that shear and start spreading some of that precipitation back into portions of, say, Louisiana. So Texas could likely get a pretty good dosing of rain today, and especially into Oklahoma and further points further north into Arkansas, Missouri, as well as into Iowa, back into Illinois. And this will likely swing further off to the east as it progresses throughout the weekend. So here's some of the impressive snowfall totals. Yeah, that far northwestern portions of the Texas Panhandle. And this is additional snow. Some of these areas have already picked up a lot of snow. So this is an additional snow. The latest high resolution guidance calling for 17 inches. That will shatter records across that region for this early on in the season. And of course, you go further north into Colorado. I mean, Denver's expecting a foot of snow. I mean, we're talking, you have to go back a long time, folks. The last time Denver saw this type of kind of long duration snowstorm in November is back in 1991. It's been a long time since they've seen something this big lasting this long in Colorado, and it's even worse down there in New Mexico, even higher totals. This is even more rare. And of course, it's more rare to see some of those huge totals in far western Oklahoma Panhandle and the Texas Panhandle. So it's just an insane amount of snow for really any time of year, much less the month of November. But as we head into Sunday, we're talking about this cold front will be pushing across the middle part of the country. I think we'll finally start running into some of that shear down there into the Gulf, and that will likely start spreading some of Raphael's precipitation into Louisiana combined with that cold front. So we're looking at some heavier rains moving back in the picture for Louisiana, Mississippi, and spreading further north eventually now in Tennessee, Kentucky, as well as into Indiana. And then we also have yet another system, a little disturbance the National Weather Service highlighted, not likely turning tropical, but will be spreading its tropical rains through Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Turks and Caicos, and I think eventually we'll head into areas of Florida by the time we head into Monday. So especially Central and South Florida, combined with this cold front, will put the heavier rains across the southeast, especially into Florida, as we'll start to knock down Raphael and keep it further south and kind of lose its luster, running into a lot of that wind shear. So look at the enormous amount of wind shear just further north. So that's why it's kind of in its little security blanket right now, and with the less shear environment. So that's why it's kind of sitting there in like low steering currents, and that's where we want it to be, just out in the middle of the ocean waters. The only thing that's going to impact are ships technically. So, but as it weakens and as it gets sheared, it will be spreading some of its precipitation further north. But I think eventually, once it hits that high pressure by early next week, that will start to suppress it further south. And then we can actually say goodbye to Raphael, because it's not going to be impacting likely probably any landmass yet. We're talking a major hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico right now. But Yeah, this pattern's pretty progressive. So when you see something pretty progressive, when you have a cold front, it just doesn't last very long, right? So you get moves through across the country, west to east, and then it kind of rebuilds and reloads. And so as we go into Monday, reloading with the south wind. So the south wind is a warm wind. So you got much of the country otherwise other than the big snowstorm that unfolded with the snow still likely portions on the ground by then still. We'll be watching yet another system, right? So we have another fairly significant trough going to be diving into the northwestern regions, the Intermountain West, bringing another upper level low, right? So the Gulf of Mexico is back in business again. And by the time we head into, say, Wednesday, we'll be talking about more heavy rain across the middle part of the country. Here's some of the dew points as the moisture would likely come back into play again over kind of some of the similar same areas. So we're looking at another potential setup by the time we head into middle of next week. More snow will likely fly into the Intermountain West. We could likely say goodbye to Raphael by then, and the more storms across the middle of the part of the country. So yes, Texas again, Oklahoma again, Arkansas, Missouri, back into Nebraska, getting into Iowa, up here further north into Minnesota, eventually get into Wisconsin. Pretty quick mover, because as we get into Thursday, look at just in a 24-hour time span, it's racing across the country. Progressive pattern. There's nothing to block this colder air, these cold fronts, so they're fairly quick as they move through, but they will be dumping a pretty good dosing of rain over your area when they do land over your area. But as you get further away from the powerful storm, it kind of winds down, so the rain amounts lessen as they moved further east. So by the time it hits the East Coast, we will be getting some light showers, possibly some moderate rain, but nothing terribly too heavy by then. And again, we just warm back up, right? So that moves out. Nothing to really trap the cold air into place. So by next weekend, we talk in the middle of November now, we've got the warmer air for, this time of year back into play. And yet we have another trough will be coming in out west. So that keeps the colder temperature. So you remain on the chilly side pretty much most of the month in November out west. You're talking Washington and Oregon, California, Nevada. After they had the brutal summer in Arizona, now they're getting the chillier air. Utah, Idaho, Montana, all those places are going to remain colder, while further central and eastern 2/3 you remain on the warmer than average side. So by the time we head into the middle of the month, got more snow coming back into picture for the Intermountain West. That will likely bring more snow for the areas of the mountain regions of Colorado, and will likely push into another disturbed area back into the middle of the Gulf of Mexico again. So you're talking the 16th through the 19th after the pattern kind of reloads again. We're talking more heavy rain over some of the similar areas: Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, back into Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky. It's not like you won't get any rain across the east, but it won't be as heavy, right? So as it moves from west to east, it'll weaken. So as it weakens, you still get the rain, but you won't be nearly as heavy as across the middle part of the country where the low pressure is stronger, but it weakens from west to east as we move throughout the middle of November. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.